Hello, I'm Krista Brooks from Berlin here at WBOC's historic Studio D. You're watching Delmarva Life.
Several parents have teenagers headed to the beach this time of year. It's a summertime tradition for many seniors, or as they're called, June bugs.
And unfortunately, some of the teens get into trouble. Joining us today to tell us what impact that could have in the long term is attorney Luke Rommel with Otway, Russo, and Rommel in Salisbury. Luke, first thing, let's start with the teenagers. If they're busted for underage drinking, what type of impact could that have on them long term?
Well, the court process itself can be time-consuming, expensive, and even really scary for a lot of people. But for most of my younger clients, teenagers especially, the first consequences that they're going to see usually is either with college applications or job applications. And that's where oftentimes they have to explain in more detail than they'd like to about these incidents that started in Ocean City.
And it can also be very expensive as well, getting into trouble, something like that.
It certainly can. Court costs tend to be very expensive. Then there's somewhat indirect costs like lawyers' fees, and a lot of times courts will require community service, which isn't a direct cost, but it certainly takes away your time and maybe your ability to work the summer job.
Right.
Now, adults or teenagers, if you are arrested for something like underage drinking or whatever, and you're found not guilty, you still have to answer on a job application that you were arrested? How does that work?
Well, that depends, and it's, as I tell a lot of my clients, it's really important to read the question on the application, because some applications ask whether you've been convicted of a crime. And what we do as lawyers is we work as hard as we can to keep a person from being convicted. Other applications are going to ask, have you ever been charged with a crime? And if you've been charged with a crime, that doesn't mean you're guilty or not guilty, but you've simply been arrested. So what I tell my clients is, if you're ever unsure on an application, just give me a call and we'll listen to the question and decide how to answer it honestly and hopefully in the best way for you as an applicant.
Right, right. And we've been hearing a lot about these synthetic drugs like the K2 and salvia. What are the implications there? Because they are illegal in Ocean City.
Well, yes, in Ocean City, the town of Ocean City has decided that salvia is just as illegal as a number of other drugs. So when you're in Ocean City, you really have to be careful with that, because whereas in some jurisdictions it still is not illegal, in Ocean City it is.
All right, what about drag racing? Basically, it's something so simple that people probably do that get amusement out of, but it can have pretty serious consequences.
It can, and drag racing, if you're caught, is going to carry almost definitely very serious traffic citations, negligent driving, reckless driving. These citations are expensive. They're going to have a very negative effect on your driver's record. But I think probably more importantly, drag racing, you're not only placing yourself at risk, but you're placing the public at risk as well. And especially in Ocean City, where you have a number of people using the crosswalk, some people who don't. And in a vacation environment, drag racing certainly places so many people at risk. It's obviously something we wouldn't recommend doing.
No, not at all.
And then real quick too, you know, many teens like to show off, and sometimes they'll vandalize things, steal signs. Those are also things that goes without saying people should stay away from, because they can get caught up in other issues that way.
Yes, my general advice, don't steal signs. But beyond that, you have something that could be fun or something that you're caught up in the moment and you think it might be a good idea or it might be exciting to steal a sign. But it's really disappointing when I have a client who does something like that and then you hear several years down the road they're applying for a job or they're applying for college admission, and that sign stealing incident is something that they turn out to really regret.
All right, so the bottom line is talk to your kids, make sure if they're heading to Ocean City or anywhere, just be good and think about the consequences. And if they have questions, parents have questions about something their children may do, they can ask you.
Definitely, and I think a part of the court process, there's a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of parents are just have a lot of questions and they need information, and that's one of the things we try to do. We can't promise a certain result at the end of a court case, but what we try to do is provide as much information as we can when a parent's concerned to answer those questions.
All right, thank you so much, Luke
Thank
Rommel,
you,
for
Luke.
joining us
Appreciate it.
this afternoon. Still to come, we've been hearing bits and pieces from Slim to None and the High Rollers all afternoon.
We can't wait to get a full performance from them next. Guys, take us to break.